I'm Simon Hartzell, and this is NAI Global's Diving into Commercial Real Estate. Thank you for joining NAI Global's Diving into Commercial Real Estate. This episode is sponsored by WeWork. Today with us is Dan Winter, Director of Partner Management with WeWork. Thanks for joining us, Dan.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Simon.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, WeWork, and how our listeners can really gain value from your organization.
Sure. I am, as you said, I'm the Director of Partner Management, which is a role that was created to improve our working relationship with the brokerage community as we continue to scale our global growth. WeWork was founded in 2010 by Adam Newman and Miguel McKelvey, and we currently have approximately 210,000 plus members globally, occupying approximately 15 million plus square feet across 242 plus office locations. We're opening about 10 to 15 offices per month, works out to about 1 million square feet of new office space opened per month across the globe. We opened our first international location in 2014 and have since grown that global reach to span 72 cities in 21 countries, adding new cities and countries into our portfolio each month. And the largest growing part of our business is our enterprise business. And the way we, everybody kind of has their own definition for that, but the way we define enterprise is any company with more than 1,000 full-time employees. So while we're traditionally thought of as a space solution for smaller startups or younger companies, we're starting to grow our client base with more established companies. And as of the end of last month, we have just shy of 1,400 enterprise partners. And this is a business that we really only introduced about 24 months ago. So we've seen a lot of growth there just over the last 2 years.
Interesting. Yeah, it sounds like you guys are making some headway and growing rapidly, which is great. How do you see the engagement of the brokerage community with your platform?
We see it ever growing. So, a lot of the kind of initial interactions that we had with the brokerage community were more around people interested in representing us in our lead sourcing efforts, because we're trying to grow at such a rapid pace in many different markets simultaneously. That was really the kind of limited focus of our interaction. And I was brought in from CBRE. I was a broker over there with kind of the directive of improving the amount of business and the just general working relationship with the brokerage community, with the hopes of kind of aligning the pace at which we're growing our footprint with the pace at which we are filling up space. So we're seeing a lot more participation from the brokerage community as they learn more about what we're able to do. We know that there was a stigma for a while. You think of a co-working company, you probably think, default as a broker to thinking of Regus. And when you think about working with Regus, you think of, you're helping out a client with the hopes of doing some other sort of business, likely, that Regus requirement or that co-working requirement being more of a catalyst to something more substantial in the future. It generally, is a small group of people that you're trying to find space for, maybe 5 to 10 employees. It's a short-term or flexible need, and at the end of the day, it ends up being a good amount of work for, very little compensation. We are trying to educate the brokerage community that, not just to the kind of breadth of service offerings that they might not be as familiar with that we can accommodate, but the partnership programs we are setting up with the brokerage community, our just general broker partnership program, is meant to make the compensation on a transaction with WeWork be a little bit more material and not just not a lot of time investment for not much payout. And we are kind of trying to frame ourselves up and just make sure that it is extremely well known within the brokerage community that our service offering has grown beyond just a flexible workspace, a couple of desks here, a couple of desks there. We are framing ourselves in a way that, you know, for any requirement you get from any client of any size, of any term length, that is something that we can accommodate, that we think that we can, you know, do better than just about any provider, that we are offering other ancillary services or additional help for that client or for you as a broker that a typical landlord just wouldn't provide, whether it is the designing of the space, the build out of the space, the management of the space. We think that we can offer your client not just a better working environment that's going to get more productivity from their employees, but we also think that we can do it faster, that we can do it cheaper, that we can get you a lot more bang for your buck because of the quality of our build-outs and our ability to use our own purchasing power to drive down the cost as much as possible. So we think that we offer a much more unique offering to a broker, to really any potential client of theirs, than just a you know, a short-term solution, a flexible solution. We do that extremely well, but we think we do, you know, can accommodate other requirements extremely well also.
Well, it's very interesting, Dan. I appreciate the overview, and in our audience and our listeners are brokers, owners, everything in between. How do they get in contact with you or the firm to get more information, learn more, and try to develop business with one another?
Well, you know, it's kind of a two-part answer for that. The short version is I can be their kind of single point of contact for anything from information inquiries, if you're trying to find the right person to talk to about, you know, current availabilities or when things are coming online, any information that they need around new office openings. You know, the best kind of single point of contact for me, or, you know, would be me. My email address is daniel.winter@wework.com, or they can get more information on our website through our broker portal, whether that's introducing a potential client or just better understanding what's available. That website is www.wework.com/brokers. The second kind of side of that coin, that answer, is the fact that we have been ramping up our own staffing so substantially and at a very large pace that there's a good chance that they're going to be reached out to by a member of our team before they know it, if they haven't been already. We're doing a lot more to engage the brokerage community, not just in understanding what's available and you know, knowing that some of the issues that we've had working with the brokerage community in the past has been a lack of understanding of what's available or what's coming online, and kind of just confusion around who exactly to talk to about getting that information. We're streamlining that process. So, you know, if they reach out to me, I'll get you in touch with the right person or get you the information within, you know, one phone call. Otherwise, they'll have people reaching out to them in their local markets who can provide that information just off the top of their heads. So we're doing a lot more to engage the brokerage community, not just understanding, you know, the information that they've been looking for previously, but really understanding everything that we can do, the breadth of our offering, and the variety of ways that we can not just service their clients, but help them kind of, you know, score easy wins with their clients. And as the, you know, for lack of a better term, the kind of brokerage ambassador in-house here at WeWork, I'm the best person when they have an issue around anything, when they have a concern about anything. I understand, you know, the brokerage plight, having done it for a long time. I understand how the brokerage community operates, what their concerns would be. about working with WeWork aside from the client needs, whether that's client retention and relationship retention, whether that is, how exactly they get paid or how this all works, whether that's, the fact that a broker's value proposition is partially embedded in their ability to negotiate, and sometimes when you do a deal with a company like WeWork, there isn't as much of that negotiation, and understanding that they still need to make sure that they are providing that value to their client and that is readily apparent. I am here to not just satisfy those appease those concerns, but we're here to, be their advocate within their own community and help them, frame themselves and kind of position themselves as a strategic partner, however that may be. And, in any way that we can be the catalyst to not just satisfying a client requirement or a client need, but helping them reinforce that relationship, that's what we're here to do. And I'm the one who is their ambassador in-house here to make sure that any issues that they might have had in the past or any concerns they might have had in the past are quashed, and that we're able to do as much to help each other out as possible.
Perfect. That's great, Dan. I appreciate your information, your support, and our sponsor today, WeWork. Thank you again. Thank you for joining us for another episode of NAI Global's Diving into Commercial Real Estate. Today's topic is how to achieve a competitive advantage in the commercial real estate business. Today, our guest is Bjarne Bauer, Managing Partner with NAI Sofia Group, Shanghai. Thank you, Bjarne, for joining us today.
Hi, good afternoon.
Let me give you a little background on yourself. You've been in the industry for over 15 years. You've spent a fair amount of time between Germany and currently reside in China, obviously Shanghai.
Correct.
I'm going to give just a brief overview that highlights some of your background because you've got an interesting experience within the business and completed almost 300 commercial real estate transactions in China alone.
Correct.
Yeah, so maybe let's start off and jump right in. Tell us a little bit about how you got into the business and how you're operating in the international world.
Sure. Well, I was always interested in real estate. Somehow, maybe it's the buildings or maybe it's the money that comes with it. I don't know. But real estate attracted me. And somehow also China attracted me. So I always loved Chinese food like many of us do. But then I also started having some Chinese lessons and started taking a trip over there. And then eventually I said, okay, I got to try it out, live there maybe for a year or two. And went there without the job, but when arriving there, got a position and started out being a real estate broker. And fortunately, stumbled into commercial and industrial brokerage and have, over the past almost 15 years, been helping a lot of American and European companies in the beginning find factory space, buy land, buy buildings, rent buildings, dispose of buildings, and in the meantime build up a team and helping both international and Chinese companies with their real estate needs.
So why Shanghai? Why not Hong Kong? Why not Beijing?
Good question. Well, within mainland China, Shanghai is, of course, the number one city in terms of business and in terms of internationalization. And Hong Kong, is a bit British still, and they speak Cantonese. So for somebody like me that has been learning Mandarin, being either in Beijing or Shanghai makes more sense. And Shanghai is a wonderful city, very exciting city, 24 million people, enormous economic growth, enormous opportunities. So I really enjoyed very much there.
That's awesome. So in such a large market, I'm sure it's very competitive. How do you develop yourself with a competitive advantage from the
You're
next
absolutely
broker?
right. You know, everyone's there. The big American and European players are there. The big Japanese players, Korean players, Australian players, the Chinese players, the Hong Kong players. Everyone's there, and more local players, and very smart and very talented local people, or local people that have been with some of the big players in the market that started out and open up own smaller shops. So it's highly competitive, but I regard it as a good thing. You know, the market is big, and there's a big cake, and those who are fast and smart and helpful, they get a slice of the cake, and hopefully a big enough slice. And you have to just be on top of your game all the time.
Do you find that specialization is worked for you? Do you specialize in one product type?
Yes. Well, we have a strong specialization on occupier representation and on tenant representation. And that angle often helps us because clients may have before been helped by somebody that's also a residential broker, but on top of it doing industrial and commercial, or by one of the big houses, but they may mostly do landlord representation and marketing of buildings and doing facility management. So when we come in, we say, okay, look, you may have elsewhere in the world, you may have an own real estate department, but here on the ground in China, you don't have your own real estate department, but you would need it, and we can be that. We are like an outsourced real estate department for you. We do tenant representation, and we work in your best interest, and we channel and get all the resources together and so on. Then they say, okay, wow, that's actually different, that's special, and that's in my favor and in my interest, and so on. That helps us a lot.
So you from what you're saying is you're saying that the specialization and being able to exceed that customer service level and an expert knowledge helps to try to differentiate yourself from maybe some of the larger firms in the market? Is that a correct
It does,
assumption?
you know, and we always take an approach of saying, okay, we're smaller, but that's not to say we are trying to do smaller deals. On the contrary, we are smaller, and that makes us more specialized, more fast, more customer-centric, and gives us the possibility to give a better service to our clients. So we want to be the ones kind of on top of the game. We want to be the Bentley, Rolls-Royce, Bugatti of the business, instead of saying, okay, we are doing things that are, that the big can't do. We are saying, okay, we can do even more. And again, you know, I think the clients, they don't really care who is serving them. They're more caring about, okay, what's the outcome of that service? What's in it for me? And I think we have been lucky and somewhat successful in showing that we can create a lot of advantages for them, that they get better rental rates, for example, and better other terms. And that's, of course, what they value the most.
Well, I think that's key for our listeners. Are probably majority of small to mid-sized businesses, so they're always trying to look at their business and how they can continue to have that competitive advantage or gain additional competitive advantage. So I think that insight that you give in regards to not being the largest, but being able to identify those needs that a client has, and then going after it in specialization, because if you know what's going on in your market and you're the expert, then you can be the extension of the client's business. Kind of like you said, you're kind of their real estate arm of their business.
Exactly, and we try as much as we can not to think and to differentiate in terms of our services and our service scope, but to differentiate our clients. Who are they? What will they need? What could we offer to them that fits them? And of course, you see patterns. There's a certain type of client that needs a certain type of thing. So you can use your things and you gain more and more experience. But we try to be very, very client-centric and trying to tailor it totally to them. And many of them appreciate it a lot. Many of them, they even ask us to use their formatting and use their files, and they give us their Excel and PowerPoint or whatever templates, and we work right on their base, and we're happy to do it. We regard it as a token of trust. They like us, they trust us, and then we help them. And so we're very close into them, makes it easy for them to report to headquarters and so on. And so they really feel they have this corporate services, tenant representation kind of approach to their commercial real estate.
Yeah, I think that's good, and I want to kind of dig a little deeper on that point and the competitive advantage from an opportunities and threats position, and looking at first the opportunities. You kind of touched base on this. Maybe you can elaborate on it. Being smaller allows you to be more nimble and react faster to the client's needs and to the market. Is that something you want to maybe discuss a little further?
Sure. And of course also depending a bit on how a firm is structured internally. Like we work very much like a strategy consulting firm would do. And also our firm, we have now 25 team members in Shanghai. That still allows us to have everyone around the table on a Monday morning meeting and gives everybody the chance to speak for 1 minute. What deals are they working on right now? And then people can share and so on. So that, of course, also makes it that in our firm, a client gets access to the expertise of 25 people. Whereas if you have a house and you have 100 or 200 people who may not necessarily all speak to each other, maybe you get the expertise of that one guy or of that 3 or 4 people that are in this team. So that's also an angle where we try to say, okay, and then we do appraisal and we share all of that appraisal data and information. So we are very consulting driven, analytic driven. We sometimes do location studies, including labor and tax incentives and all of these things. So again, the client feels like, okay, good, wow, I'm getting a lot of valuable insights. I don't have to pay for these insights. And we enjoy it as well. We feel like, okay, we're really adding value. We are not just a broker that sits in the middle, more and more that's done over the internet, but we are there providing strategies, ideas, consulting, and that intelligence is what the clients actually value the most, I think.
Yeah, that's what they're paying for. Exactly. They're paying for that consultation type of approach versus you're just a broker putting two parties together. So that's
exactly.
That's an excellent point. From the other side of it, from a external threats, I'm assuming that there's several things that you've identified being a small firm or in your market of Shanghai that you maybe have identified as certain weaknesses or threats in the market. Maybe are there anything that you'd like to share in that regard, being a smaller firm?
Of course, let's say if you're a smaller firm in terms of marketing, it's very hard to go into, let's say, big scale billboard marketing, TV marketing, radio marketing, and so on. So what we have to do is that a much more direct marketing. We try to identify our key contact target persons, and then we try to approach them very directly, share valuable information with them, and so on. And another threat and challenge for us is, of course, that clients may not initially know what they need and what we have to offer. And also, of course, the competition will say we provide a wonderful service. When we then go out and say, oh, yes, but by the way, we provide an even more wonderful service, they may not necessarily know and believe that right away. So we need to have references, and we need our existing clients to tell them and to spread the word how wonderful and how good this was. And let's say even if headquarters may not even know our name yet, that they then fight for us and say, okay, in Shanghai, that's the firm we want to work with, and so on. And we are constantly working on it and just hoping that we are getting better and better at it.
Well, that's the thing. You don't need a lot of clients. You just need to be able to service those clients you work with very well, ethically.
Exactly.
Honestly,
I mean, the repeat business and the referral business, I think we all know that that's the most valuable. But then, of course, we have to really delight our customers. Like, I think also sometimes it's not enough to do a better job than the competition might do, because the client may not know who does what. The client may have a very high expectation. So I like that concept of James Altucher, who says, first over-promise, then over-deliver. So we try to promise a lot, and then we try to deliver even much more.
Well, that's interesting because it is very competitive out there, and I think as we talk about here, the general theme of competition and you being better than the next person, exactly right. Your client doesn't know what some of your competition's doing, and regardless, they don't really care. They've got their own expectation and agenda.
We are there to solve a problem, and I mean they may compare us to Boston Consulting Group and to McKinsey, and if they do, I regard it as a compliment. And if they hold us to that standard, then I'm saying actually yes, let's deliver that standard. Let's be the McKinsey and Boston Consulting Group of commercial real estate.
That's awesome. Well, good. And talking kind of on a global scale, you're sitting in Germany as we speak. How
exactly?
Even with your affiliation with NAI, how is the size of your firm, or how are you able to capitalize on global business and servicing?
We try to capitalize and utilize it as much as possible, and I'm 90% of my time in Shanghai, or at least let's say in China. So I'm traveling a bit to the U.S., a bit to Europe, and right now I'm in Germany, which doesn't happen so often these days. And I was in our Frankfurt office the day before yesterday, a wonderful office, like everything top end, more than 100 people in the office there, and then several satellite offices, I think maybe in total about 200 people. So very strong presence in Germany, and we constantly try to work together and tell our clients, look, we can help you both back home in Europe and in the U.S. and in China and wherever else you need it. We have Asia-Pacific meetings with the partner firms, with the NAI firms from Korea, from Taiwan, from Singapore, from Indonesia, from Malaysia, and so on. And our clients, they may not need that immediately, but it's also very reassuring for them to say, like, okay, wow, we're working with a firm that has 400 offices around the globe, and they're all specialized in commercial and industrial real estate. So they feel like, okay, good, there's a lot of expertise. And if they need something, we are working on an assignment right now with a German company that we have been first helping in China and did a number of deals with them. And now they have a need in Mexico, and we were able to refer to our NAI Mexico office. And next they may have a need in the U.S., and we are speaking to them and saying, like, we can help you wonderfully. We can help you perfectly over there. And we are building the connections, and the client experiences it, hopefully, as we are serving them. It's not like we are trying to sell them more, but we are trying to solve their problems and serve them worldwide.
Well, and that's where you have to keep reminding the clients that you do have accessibility across the globe, and it's the old cliche, out of sight, out of mind. If you're not kind of in the forefront, or you're not reminding them of the large net you can cast, then they won't know and won't think of you. But if you're always reminding them of your travels and reminding them of your accessibility across the globe, then it opens up that opportunity again. So it's that common.
So true, and the Chinese, they have a saying, as the Chinese have sayings on everything. So their saying is, say important things 3 times. You've got to say important things 3 times. And sometimes that's what I experience. You mention to the client once, he says, yes, yes. You mention it again, he says, oh, really, you do? You mention the 3rd time, he says, yes, actually, I need that now that I think of it. So mentioning it once may not even do the trick. You have to say it loud and clearly and ask the clients so that they say, yes, well, actually, let me put you in touch with X, Y, Z, and then we can go ahead and help them.
Can you mention that 2 more times for me?
I'm not sure whether the listeners of the podcast have that time.
Do you mind sharing a real-life example of how your client's interaction was a success based on the opportunity for firms of your size and service?
Sure. Clients come to us, and they may ask us how we work and so on, and then they may say, well, but compared to the largest players in the market, your fees are the same or maybe even higher, and why shouldn't we use the largest players? And what I say is, well, look, you want to go out for a nice dinner tonight? Will you go to the largest restaurant there is, which is McDonald's, or will you go to the second and third largest, which are probably Burger King and KFC? And it becomes very obvious to them that it's the quality that counts, you know. And then, of course, we support that in addition with, okay, our track record, our resources, our access, our team members. You know, we have team members that have been with the firm, let's say, 15 years, 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, plus they've been in the industry even longer. So then the client feels like, okay, good, that's what I actually need. I need that expertise. I don't need the size necessarily, but I need the power and the resources and the service.
Yeah, they're looking to go, if they're going out to dinner for a good dinner, they want the 5-star treatment. And that's exactly what you're giving them. And I'm sure you're living up to that.
I really, really hope so. You know, like there's probably always things you can improve and you want to improve, but at least we are committed to impress them and to serve them well.
Of course. So, well, good. And now I want to shift gears into a couple fun questions.
All right.
So here we go. Favorite food? I'm curious to hear this because of your travels and living in multiple countries. If you tell me McDonald's, then we're gonna probably edit that out.
All right. Well, sure. You know, I'm a real foodie, and one of the major reasons I love China, and I wanted to move to China, is the food. So I love a lot of the Chinese food, and they have so many kitchens all over China. But right now, I also really love the Indian food, and especially North Indian food, all their naans, all their breads, and all the ways of doing curries and chickens and so on. So right now, I think it's North Indian food that I like the most.
Perfect. Awesome. And it's just about dinner time here in the States, so now you're getting my appetite.
Now I've given you an idea.
So, and again, being well-traveled, what's the last country you visited for fun, or one of your favorite countries you enjoyed visiting?
Well, I think the last one I visited was Indonesia, and 80-90% of my travels are like for business and projects, but I traveled to Indonesia for fun, for leisure, and we flew to Labuan Bajo, which is an island area not so far off Bali, and it's where the Komodo dragons are, and it was an amazing experience, and we were on a boat for 3 days and 3 nights, and swimming with the fishes and the sea turtles, and it was just totally amazing. So if people want to travel for business, I'd say come to Shanghai, visit our CRE Scala, and do some great business. And then if you want to have an absolutely fantastic holiday, something in these island areas, there are hundreds, if not thousands of little islands around Indonesia. That's a very good place to spend a holiday.
Awesome. Well, that's great. And this is all great stuff, but unfortunately we are running out of time. But I do want to thank you for being our guest speaker today on this podcast Beyond. And
thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. If there is an individual or group that are looking to contact you, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Well, anyway, mobile phone, telephone, email, the NAI Global website. My email is Bjarne, that's BJARNE @sofiagroup.com. That's a good way, and otherwise you'll find us on the internet, of course, very easily.
Okay, perfect. Well, again, thank you very much. If you would like to find out more, absolutely. If any of our listeners would like to find out more about becoming a new office with NAI Global, please email us at help@naiglobal.com or call us directly at 609-945-4047. Thank you for listening.